Good morning, good morning. There you are. Thank you ever so much for watching, whether that's live or on catch up. Horrible weather today. It's storm Aowen, so whatever you're doing, I hope you stay safe and well. Now then, what have we got for you today? Answer quite a few things. The newsletter is absolutely jam-packed, so I've picked out a couple of the things that I think are likely to be most helpful for you. So the first thing is, as you may have already heard, the Stormont Brake was triggered by the unionist parties last week over CLP labelling issues because they don't like the new requirements for spacing between the fonts and minimum font size and things like that. And there's about $1 billion of trade between Northern Ireland and the EU. So what happened was contacts of mine in Northern Ireland said they're flying a kite on this one. It's not really CLP. They're just looking for an excuse to see if they can trigger it. And this week, the Northern Ireland Secretary, Hilary Benn, or Viscount Stansgate, as I believe he technically is, excuse me. Anyway, he denied the use of it. But what he said was really interesting. First of all, they said there's going to be a consultation. But then the BBC on Monday, in the middle of all the Trump inauguration stuff, so good day to bury news, one would have thought. The BBC, who are kind of the mouthpiece of the Labour government in a lot of ways, they had a really interesting article where they were saying, well, with the Stormont Brake move, and I'm just putting it below this video now, then maybe the way to make things easier for Northern Ireland is to adopt the EU CLP labelling rules in the rest of the UK. Now, the person who wrote this is a Northern Ireland correspondent at the BBC, so I am presuming that they are not STEM people and they wouldn't know a chemical if it bit them on the behind, as it were. And they certainly won't understand how chemical regulations fit together, because there's some real problems. It's not like CLP exists on its own. CLP is in this dance with REACH. So if you're saying, well, the CLP label should be the same in Northern Ireland and the rest of the EU, they should go like that in the UK. What happens with things like authorised substances that are authorised in the EU and not authorised in the UK? And interesting, they should be listed on the label. So why are they listed on the label in the UK if they're not authorised in the UK? Oh, well, we need to make them authorised in the UK. And we need to change the safety data sheet part of EU REACH so that it's matching the EU part of REACH. And, oh, well, maybe then we need to change registration. And you can see the whole thing just cascading in a horrible way to effectively unpick Brexit. So I think this one is going to run and run. We've already had the Labour government talking about working more closely with Europe, and you can kind of see that this is maybe where they're going with this, and it's not particularly helpful. For starters, the HSE have done fantastic work actually checking the harmonised classifications, and they disagree with the EU on some of them. Again, that's a CLP issue. Does that mean that the harmonised classifications need to change? It's not just the label, is it? Anyway, I will get off my soapbox about that one. But yes, it is a very, very interesting thing, and watch this space very much. So our second piece of news is that ECHA have more divergence, 5 new EU SVHCs. And I'm trying to type it. I didn't even have my cursor in the text box. And of course, that is one of the things that potentially might have to change if the labelling changes. Because if something authorised has to be the same in the EU and GB, then the SVHC list has to be cascade effects again, isn't it? Cascade effects. So I'm just putting the link to the 5 new SVHCs. And we have a bit in the newsletter today about some of the consequences of SVHC status, and also a bit about how we are unable to feed back to ECHA about problems with dossiers. you know, that one annoys me a great deal. There are no feedback mechanisms. So they're like, oh no, you should be able to talk to the lead registrant, they said years ago when I challenged them about this. And it's like, yeah, well, what if the lead registrant says no? And what if we are 3 steps down the supply chain and we don't know who our registrant is? Never mind the lead registrant. And you know, why aren't ECHA interested in a dossier being incorrect, and they can effectively force the lead registrant to make that update? Anyway, I'll pop the link to the newsletter in just now. Like I said, it's pretty jam-packed this week, to the point where I've had to move stuff into next week. So that's there for you. Right, so that's kind of the work things. What about Owlkitty, who is a real cat called Lizzie? Well, I have the very, very best version of Love Actually. This is amazing. The lengths they went to make it work, fantastic. I mean, it's far better than the original Love Actually. Not that I have watched the whole thing, because I am not a massive fan of Richard Curtis. Ever since he absolutely ruined 4 Weddings and a Funeral with that stupid ending. But yes, it's a really sweet version of Love Actually. And then we also have Indiana Jones. Oops, my entire IT system is playing up today. Apologies. So anyway, sorry, still suffering with this cold. Thanks ever so much for watching Live Oral Catch Up. I hope this is as useful and interesting, and the Owlkitty videos are funny. And I look forward to chatting to you again next week, if we're spared. Take care of yourselves out there. It's really horrible. Bye.